Hey guys, welcome to Bar Z. My name's Stan, and today we've done a quick retrofit on the test oven. This is my personal oven, and the faceplate got a got an upgrade. Let's look at the old one. Okay, so I thought I'd splurge and treat myself to one of my fancy pants nameplates. Also, I have upgraded the temperature controller, and this is not the standard unit. This is a Novus N480D. This is a process controller. This is not your run-of-the-mill temperature controller. This is a process controller, and there's a difference. And we're going to go through some of those differences. Now, this is a complex unit. I didn't offer these in the standard ovens because it is a complex unit. It's capable of just regular temperature regulation, which is just run and hold. It's capable of plugging in a user-defined rate, which is the rate at how high the oven climbs, expressed in degrees per minute for a rate, and then it'll soak for a certain amount of minutes after you've hit your target set point. So the three parameters would be set point, the rate at which it climbs expressed in degrees per minute, and then after it reaches its set point, how long it's going to soak or stay at that one user-defined temperature. So that's a single ramp, single soak. So that's considered a rate. The other one is a program. Now, this is where you plug in numbers to segments. This controller has 9 segments, so you could ramp up, hold a temperature, ramp down, hold another temperature. Each ramp or soak is considered a segment, so you can do it up to 9 times. And that is user defined as well. And we're going to get deep into the menu to figure out how to do that. But I'm also going to show you something pretty cool about this thing. Right now we're set, so all it does is run and hold. The simplest thing. The only thing on the main menu, remember this is the same as your other Novus. The main menu is all access through P. So we've got a run command, and that's yes or no. That's it. Run yes, run no. Done. And then right here you set your temperature. So this is just a run hold, and in the simplest form, that's the way this works. Right now we've got a run light and we've got an output light. So we're actually running. So if I lower my temperature below 67, I lose my output. If I go above 67 or 66 now my output comes back. So we're heating. All right, so now we're not heating. So now we're going to go back to run, no, back to our screen. All right, let's get a little deeper into it. We're going to go to we're just going to do, let's do the ramps. And this might be pretty interesting. Let's set, we're going to push and hold the P button until we see this screen. And now I have to go all the way to the bottom. I'm going to keep repeatedly hitting the P button until I get all the way to the bottom of this screen. These are a bunch of alarms and a bunch of things like that. Okay, PRTY stands for the type of SP program adopted by the controller. Right now it's set to none. We have 3 options here. One's rate and one's program. All right, we're not going to mess with the programs yet because those are the user-defined profiles. We're going to go to rate and plug that in. Now we're back to our main screen. This is and now when we hit our P button, not push and hold, just push. Now we're showing a rate. And after that screen, we're going to show the time set point. This is the time at our set point. And then we get a run command after that. So it's changed basically the home screen. All right. So let's set a temperature just for the heck of it. Let's set a 100-degree temperature. All right. Now we're going to go to a rate, And, you know, the difference between 60 and 100, you know, is 40 degrees roughly. So maybe we want, this is, like I said, this is going to be in degrees per minute. So if we did 1.0, that's 1 degree per minute. You would get a 60-degree rise in 1 hour. If you want a 100-degree rise in an hour, that would be what, 1.6? That would be 100 degrees per hour. All right, so let's select that. And then we go to time at set point. This is the amount of time expressed in minutes that after we reach our set point, it's going to time. And all that's going to happen there is it's going to stay at that temperature. Let's keep it there for 10 minutes at 100 degrees. And the next one is run. So what's going to happen is it's going to put in a rate on the rate of ascent. It's going to get to, after it arrives to the temperature, it's going to start the clock for 10 minutes. And then after the 10 minutes times out, it's going to remove the run command. So it's a single ramp, single soak. That's it. And it's user defined every time. And we're going to give it a run command, yes, and hit start. We're going to hit heat enable. And we can hear it buzzing. It's pulling some amps. So what it's doing now is you see it's applying and removing the run command here. And what it's trying to do is it's trying to raise the oven temperature at a rate of 1.6 degrees per minute. So we've made our 100 degrees, you know, and it's just barely getting there. You know, the oven's capable of ramping up very rapidly. And we're throttling that back so we don't overheat our parts or heat up our parts too quickly. A lot of times you want a very gentle ramp up to a specific temperature, and you can define that pretty easily. All right, so let's let this run a little bit, and then I'll try to bring it back right as the thing times out and shuts down to show you what it does. Okay, so we've come off of our rate increase, and we're in automatic now, basically. So it's just going to maintain that 100 degrees, just with a little tickle of the output there, like you just saw. And you'll get the roller coaster ride, you know, because we don't have any PIDs set yet. But what it's going to do, it's going to maintain that 100 degrees now that it's done with its rate ascent. It's going to maintain that 100 degrees for 10 minutes. And then the controller is going to shut down. So I'm going to set my timer for 10 minutes and bring you back and show you what it does automatically, that you don't need to put a timer on it. It'll do it for you. But I'm going to set a timer so we can see what's happening here. Okay, well, we've timed out. We're at 100 degrees for 10 minutes like we programmed in there. I'll show you the program parameters one more time. It has removed the run command. You see we no longer have a run light, but our rate was 1.6 degrees per minute, which is a very slow rate, but some people would want something even slower. Our set point is, our temperature set point for the time was 10 minutes. And there you can see it's removed the run command. If you want to repeat the process, just turn this to yes, and it's going to repeat the process if you have multiple things to do. So you could switch that to yes and make it run that same rate of ascent all over again. Now, okay, so that's rate. That's pretty simple, and that's right off your home screen. You know, those are the three options during on that home screen. Let's change the home screen one more time. We're going to press and hold P until we see type. Auto tune, type. All right, that's your thermocouple. We got to go to the bottom of this menu. I'm not going to call out what all these are. I can do that later. A lot of these are pretty standard things. These are alarm functions and things like that. Okay, so we get down to the bottom of the menu, and it's PRTY, which is our what we have on our programming home screen, and it's right now it's set to rate, which we just did. We're going to set that to program. Okay. So we go and we select that, and it's going to take us back to our home menu. Let's see how that changes the home screen. The home screen now says program, and that's going to be run yes or run no. Those are your only options. So for right now, we're going to leave it on no. And then we've got a run command, and that's either yes or no. Okay. So right now we're not doing anything, but we're going to go at this point, now that we've selected the PRTY at the bottom of the input menu, we've got a new menu available to us, and we're going to push and hold until we see PTOL, auto tune, PTOL. Now this is where the program gets really complicated. We're going to start scrolling through this using the P button. Set point 0 is basically our starting point. This is your baseline where you take off from. So let's turn this down to, I don't know, 100 degrees. Which is basically what the oven's at right now. It's right about 100 degrees. That was our last test. Okay, so that's our set point 0. This is our baseline. And then here we're at segment number 1. And it's going to be a time interval. So we're saying 20 minutes, and we're going to take it to 400 degrees. So in 20 minutes, it's going to ramp from 100 to 400. All right. So that's our first segment. At point 2, it's going to hold 400 degrees for 10 minutes. PE, these are events. This is an alarm function. You can set any of the PEs for an alarm to go off, close a contact, set off an alarm, light up a light, whatever. So I've got all those turned off because I don't have anything wired to those contacts. And then PSP 2 is the set point 2 is 60. So it's going to ramp after it ramps up to from 100 to what would I say, 400. Now it's going to try to take it back down to 60, which it's actually not an air conditioner. So I will take that up maybe back to 100. Okay. And the amount of time it's going to take to do that, let's set that for, like I say, it's not an air conditioner. It can't do it in a minute. You are subject to the mechanical limits of the oven. It can only cool down so quick. Let's set that for maybe 40 minutes. Everything's defined in minutes here. Okay, so that's point 3, and that's the event for 3. As you notice, it's off. And the rest of them are just set for 60, 1 minute, off. 60, 1 minute, off. There's 9 of these. Okay, there's 9 set points, there's 9 segments, and there's 9 alarm functions. We're only at 6 now. We're just getting through this whole thing. If you want to just get out of the menu, you can just press and hold. That's going to take you to the next menu group. Keep holding. Take you to the password. Don't play with that. And it takes you back to the home screen. Now that we're at the home screen, we can press once. Program run, yes. Run command, yes. Home screen. And now you can watch what it's going to do. It's going to take, you see our set point is now moving. 103, 104. And the oven is going to follow that ramp. If you remember what we put in there, I think we put in 100 to 400 degrees over, I think it was a 10-minute period. I don't remember what we plugged in there, but it's going to follow that ramp now. So it's going to ramp up It's going to soak. I know our target was 400. It's going to ramp, soak, and cool back down. So you can use the cool down feature for annealing. If you want to anneal something, if you want to say, hey, I want to cool this thing down over a 12-hour period, plug it in there. It'll do it. So right now we've got basically a nice ascent. And this is different than doing the rate. The rate is a specific temperature per minute. This is just defining the set point of the controller. You see in the green, it's altering the set point on the way up over a predetermined amount of time, which essentially you can accomplish the same thing if you do the math. But the controller is following the curve that we have created. And over that 10-minute period, it's going to make it to 400 degrees. I'm just going to let the camera fly, and maybe I'll fast forward through this, and which will make you lose your sense of real time, but it is going to follow that time profile that we inserted. Okay, we just hit our 400, and at this point now it's gonna basically run hold. I had to move the camera here so you can get in there, I'm sorry. So it's gonna hold at that 400 for, I forgot what we plugged in there. I think we plugged 10 minutes in there. So it's gonna maintain 400 degrees for that 10 minutes. And I'm not gonna make you sit through all of that. After that 10 minutes is timed out, it's gonna start ramping us down. And I think our second set point was 100 degrees. So we ramped up from 100 to 400 over 20 minutes. That's what we fast forwarded through. And now it's going to basically run hold at 400 for 10. And then I think I set the other one at like 40 minutes to cool it back down. So that is one profile that you can use. And that's only using 3 of the segments. We have 9 available to us. So this is a perfect example of that. Now let's shut this thing down. You said, man, that's a lot of programming and I'm going to get lost in that menu. Let me show you something else that's cool. I'm going to turn off heat enable, and we're going to go ahead and shut down the controller. Now this controller's pretty unique. There's 2 little thumb grabs right here, and we just pull it out of its sub base. All right, so that's what we're looking at. Let's go take this little controller over to the bench, and I'm going to show you something else. Okay, we're over at my laptop now, and I've got my controller here. And I want you to notice there's a mini USB port right there. And you can plug this guy in just using a mini USB. Plug it into your laptop as so. And you see the controller powers up. It gives us the revision. And we did in fact plug it in. This isn't this old Tony trick. I really am plugging it into the computer. So it's got our last set point there. It's still set on run. It's still got everything that it was doing before. All right. And there's all our other programs and everything that are in there. It's on run, yes. We're going to go to run, no. You know, it still functions. We don't have a temperature input because we're unplugged from the thermocouple. When we unplug it from the base, we lose the thermocouple. But we are able to program it. Okay, so now we've removed the run command just for the heck of it. Didn't need to, but let's set this guy maybe over here. There we go. And I've got the little controller plugged in right over there. You don't really need to see that, but I'm going to show you what we're going to do. There is if you go to the Novus website, they've got some free software for programming. You can download it. Doesn't cost a thing. It's called N480D, and it's right up there on the top left. And this is our N480D software. We're going to hit search and configure. And right now it's searching for a connected device, which right now it just hooked the N480D, which is what we have, temperature controller. It's got the description of the controller right there. Okay, and we're gonna hit configure, and we're gonna maximize this window to get a good look at it. And now we've got all these menu groups right in front of us that we can change. We can go to the RNS program cycle, and here you're gonna see all the menus and everything that you saw earlier in the control. And over here on the right, it gives you the description of them, what it's going to do. So here's our PSP01. This is our starting point. This is the set point 0. This is where we start. And let's look at the, we got currently we have 100 degrees in there. And I've reconfigured it a little bit here. This is my main thing for testing. I had 100 degrees for 2 minutes. Right there, that's set for 2. I can zoom you in a little bit where I'm working. Hopefully you can see that. I've just got a camera pointed at the screen. I don't know how to do screen grabs. But right here, 100 degrees, 2 minutes. Alarm condition off. Our set point 1 is set for 400. Again, 2 minutes. Set point 2 is 400. Again, 2 minutes. Our set point 3 is 100. And I've got it set for 1 minute. Now, any changes you make, you can change any of these values up and down here. When you're done, you come up. Show you this up here. When you're done changing your values, you come up here and you hit right here, and it'll write it to that controller. So a simple unplug and plug it into your USB with this software. You can program your controller any way you like, which is pretty nice. So far, I've been pretty impressed with this freeware. All right, there. Let that focus a little bit. I'm gonna zoom out. It's acting kind of funny there. Right about there. You can go into any menu group you like. You've got operation cycle, which is just your set point, your program, and your run command. You got your tuning cycle, which is auto tune. It's got your proportional band and your hysteresis, ramp and soak profiles, scale cycles, which is this is the. We'll go down them one by one. Type is your thermocouple type. This is where you point it to what type of thermocouple you're going to use. We use a K. This is your decimal place positioning. These all have pull-down menus, so you can change your decimal place on your any way you want. Units, we are currently set to Fahrenheit. Your choices are Fahrenheit and centigrade. The action is set for reversed, which is suitable for heating. Output A. We don't use, so it is off. Output B is set for control, which controls the SSR. C and D, output C and output D, we do not use. Offset, this is interesting. If you find an error within the oven, and let's say you see a 10-degree discrepancy between actual measured temperature and, say your oven's reading low with an actual reading compared to what the controller sees. An offset, basically you can lie to the controller until all values are -10 or all values are +10. Offset allows you to change the process value a fixed amount, and you can lie to the controller and correct an error. Set point low is set for 60 degrees. That's one of my parameters. Set point high is 2000 degrees. Don't go above that. Alarms we're not using. There's alarm function on alarm 1 and alarm 2. You got an alarm hysteresis on alarm 1 and alarm 2, and alarm blocking We don't use any of those. Now we get down to the bottom of where we change our main controller. You know, this is our PRTY, our party button. And your three choices there are off, rate, and program. And we've discussed this in pretty much a lot of detail on how to set your rate and use the rate controller to bring the oven up at a specific rate and then soak it. And then the other one is program, which I just showed you how to program. And right now we are set for program, all right? But anytime you want to change any of these values, change the value for your ramps and your soaks, and hit right, and it brings them in. Let's take a look at what we just did. Here on my cheat sheet, you see 100 degrees down at the bottom, right over here. We took 100 degrees. We took 20 minutes to reach to 400 degrees. So this is set point 0. This is time 1. This is set point 1. This is time 2. This is set point 2. This is time 3. And here we're ramping back down. This is set point 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3 set points, and 1, 2, 3 time values. Okay, so that's what we just created: a ramp up, a soak, and a ramp back down. Now you can profile this any way you want. You can repeat the cycle. You can bring it right back up. If you needed to cycle apart, cool it down, heat it up, cool it down, heat it up. Or if you wanted to just ramp, soak, and whatever. But you can program this any way you want with this software. And so far it's been pretty nice. You can flash program your unit. It's just, like I say, it's just plugged into the USB. And the USB actually powers up the controller. You know, and when you're done, unplug it after you've written your new program into it, and go plug it back into your oven and go. All right, so pretty cool. And this is kind of for advanced users. You know, if you're not comfortable with a ramp and soak controller, I wouldn't order one. You know, but if you do need these ramp and soak functions, and you're comfortable using the software and comfortable using the controller, you know, right off the keypad, you know, you've got two different ways to program it. All right. But that's the Novus 480D, and that is the controller I have selected for people that want the ramp and soak. Think hard before you order one of these. There's a lot to them. Okay. Okay, just for the fun of it, let's plug something in. You know that's really not practical, but we're going to plug it in and just watch the controller go through the motions. We're going to start with 100 degrees. We're going to ramp up in 1 minute, which is ridiculous. And we'll call it 400. We'll stay at 400 for 1 minute. Our second set point is 400. And then our ramp down is going to be 1 minute. Down to 100 degrees. 1. We're good. We're going to write. And we've written to it. We saw the comm light up on our controller. Let's go plug this in and watch what happens. Okay, we're back at the oven. And we got our controller that we just programmed with some really short, ridiculous numbers, but we can watch the controller go through the motions of what we just plugged into it. We're going to enable heat. We're going to enable power. And let it go through its revision. Now we're going to go to program. We're going to run the program. We're going to run yes. And here we go. Now, we only set it for a minute, so it's going to ramp up quick. It's going to go from, it started at 100. Our set point 0 was 100, so that was our baseline. And it's going to take 1 minute to get us up to 400. It's going to hold 400 for 1 minute, and then it's going to go back down to 100 in a minute. So let's just watch this in real time. You know, I set some really short numbers in there so you could see what it was doing. And now at this point, the oven's trying to keep up, but our controller's moving so quick, the oven can't possibly react this quickly. But we're getting output, and we're ascending rapidly. So we're coming up 375, 380, 390. Yeah, it's getting there. 400. All right, we just hit our target, and our oven's heating. You can see it's doing its best to keep up, but it's going to hold 400 for a minute. All right, so we hit it. Our oven actually caught up, which was good. And now it's going to do whatever it can to maintain that temperature. The oven was climbing as fast as it could. And it's going to hold that 400 for 1 minute, and then it's going to issue a command to start heading down. And it's going to ramp back down to 100 over 1 minute's time. And you're going to see that green display, which is your temperature input, automatically start changing here in under 60 seconds. So this is the fastest ramp up, soak, and ramp down in the world. But I wanted to do it so you guys could see how the programming works and how the ramp and soak works, and not have to sit there through a bunch of time lapse. All right, so it's on its way back down now, and it's going to go to 200 and basically stay there. All right. It's going to enter all the other segments. It's going to, we went through segment 1 through 3, I think. So it's going to go to all those other ones. So if you want a null value in those, plug in a null value and it'll just cancel it out. Yep, it's going right past it. It's going to try to get down to, 100 is where it's going to pause. And there it is. And now it's going to start very slowly climbing down to 60, which was my next value, and that was on 3. So if you've got null values set in there, it will ignore them. But if you've actually have a value set in there on a segment, it's going to take you to those values. So if you want the same across the board, just do it in the computer. Now, I will remind you, even though we've called for a ridiculous amount of heat and we're called for the oven to cool down, it's not an air conditioner. It can't cool down that quick. You are subject to the mechanical limits of the oven. So, we're still at 366 degrees inside of the oven, even though we're on our way down to 60 degrees. And after it hits 60, I think the rest of my values were set at the lower set point limit. I think it's just going to stay there on 60, which it has. All right, so basically the oven's off. We got no output, and it's just going to stay on 60 throughout the duration of this cycle. So basically the oven's just in cool down. There's nothing happening. All right, so that's a very fast ramp up, soak, and a ramp down based on what we plugged into the computer. Okay, guys, hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching.